Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Scoreboard here on Heart of Ohio Sports, live in Studio Squared in downtown Tiffin. Nate Mullins in studio with Josh Morgret. How we doing, Josh?
Good, buddy.
And we also have the wizard on the ones and twos, Greg Kinn, keeping us live. Greggy, I gotta be honest. I threw you a shout out on Facebook, but I felt bad because you called me out after last night's game, and I gotta give you a shout out, because he called me out. He's like, "Oh, Columbian loses, so hey, screw Greggy." Didn't give Greggy any thank you after the game. I didn't call him out. I'm sorry. I apologize, buddy.
Nah, I just was teasing you, man. It was funny. Like, I was listening to you, and I could just tell that you were disheartened by the game. And I was like, oh, poor Nate. His mind is checked out right now, man.
It was a dark day at Frost County Stadium last night. It was Black Friday for the SBC in general.
For the area, the whole area.
Ouch. You had, multiple teams losing in the area. We'll talk about that. We'll break it all down. Josh, where were you last night?
I went to Glenville. Well, it was Collingwood High School to Cleveland, Glenville, and Bellevue. Or the B team, if that's what you prefer.
Did you clutch your pearls?
I was scared for my life a couple times. I'm talking like metal detector to get in the game. Searched my bag, for whatever they searched for, drugs or guns or... It was scary. It was not the best place to be in Northeast Ohio last night.
Yeah, well, they're not messing around. They want to make sure everybody's safe.
That's
trying to create a safe environment. So
that's why I said I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There had to have been 30 cops there last night. I guess that's a good thing for my safety and everybody's safety. It was kind of scary that they need 30 cops at a high school football game.
Yeah, well,
unmarked cars, police cars.
Ooh.
Everybody. It seemed like every time I turned and looked, I saw someone that said police on their shirt, which was, again, comforting, but still a little scary. Like, I had to move my car to the parking lot where the police were just to sit there and write my story.
Well,
if that's
okay.
Yeah. And then I typed and wrote as fast as I could.
And got the heck out of there.
Got back on Route 2, went by Progressive Field, and stayed on Route 2 until I got to Sandusky.
So the result of you were there to cover the Bellevue versus Cleveland-Glenville game.
Yeah.
What happened?
Bellevue moves the ball on the first drive, couple of first downs, threw an interception. 3 plays, Glenville goes like 91 yards. It was like a 15-yard pass, a 7-yard pass, and a 70-yard touchdown. It was like bang, bang, bang.
Wow.
Bellevue actually responds, comes down and scores. I'm like, okay, turnover on the first play or on the first drive, whatever. And then it was Glenville the rest of the game.
Oh.
Big plays. I think the quarterback only completed like 7 or 8 passes, but it was like 250 yards. They had a drive right before the half. He hit a 43-yard screen, and then I think they had like a run for like a yard, and then a 40-yard pass to the end zone. It was like, boom.
Well,
we talk with a lot of it was about their defense. Like they have 7 shutouts this year in 10 games, or 10 games going into last night, but their offense was explosive. Like Bellevue could not stop it. Their running back actually, I don't know if it's because I was in Cleveland, actually reminded me of Nick Chubb. He was like 6 foot, 230 pounds. Trucking over players. And then there was no stopping him, at least last night for Bellevue. So it was a rough night.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what was that, like 36-6 or something?
43-6 was
43-6.
the final. Yeah,
okay.
Like I said, it was 6-6 towards the end of the first quarter, and then Glenville hit some big plays, and then I think it was 24-6 at halftime. Bellevue threw an interception on the first drive of the second half. So, big explosive players over at Glenville.
Yeah, that's a rough night for the Redmen, but good season for them. Yeah. I'd say, that's the standard for Bellevue,
Yeah.
They have set that standard year after year. They make the playoffs, challenge for, NOL or the SBC title, whatever they're in. They challenge for that title every year. So, they lived up to the standards in Bellevue, and I think they have a pretty young team too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And they battled injuries this year. Last night was a third-string quarterback too. And the fourth-string quarterback came in for a couple plays when the third-stringer got hurt on a roughing the passer penalty. So, to lose your top 2 quarterbacks, the one you started the year with, and then Jax Lapata took over, and he got hurt midway through the season. So I think they had 5 or 6 different kids throw a pass this year too. So,
wow.
And the kid that played last night, Ashton Martin, he's only a junior, and so is Jax Lapata. So I'm curious to see how they run that offense last year with Lapata leading the way most of the season, or if Ashton Martin gets the nod. He's a really good passer, really good ball. They definitely had, they moved the ball. I think they actually had more first downs in the first half than Glenville. which is nice, except the fact that they were down 24-6 at halftime. So, yeah, but to answer your original question, yeah, young team. The running back, Brody Horn, will be back next year too. So they're probably going to be a pretty solid team again next year.
Yeah. So, and they move to the Bay next year, correct?
Yeah, they will probably like that.
Yeah.
It's a little different playing. I mean, not that Huron and Edison and teams like that are scrubs, but it's a little different than playing Columbia and Clyde in your league. They still play Clyde in the non-league next year, but it'll be a little different.
Yeah, it's going to be a little different for them next year, but we'll move on. Other teams in the area in action last night. We'll save the Columbian game for last because we have some highlights from that one. We'll also save the Cary Colonel Crawford one for last because that's also we have some highlights. We'll do the champs cut of the week. That'll come to you later. But let's talk a little bit about. Let's see. We had Hopewell Loudon in action as well last night. They traveled to Columbia Station, and took a tough loss. Now Columbia was 12-0 coming into this game, and they played some really tough teams this year. And, this was going to be a tough matchup for Hopewell. They didn't match up well defensively with them, and they weren't able to get anything going offensively last night. Just 6 points on the board. They surrendered 36. It was a tough loss for them, but another quality season for the Hopewell Loudon Chieftains. They are another team that, while they do lose some senior talent, they're pretty young. They got a lot of young talent. Braylon Martinez comes to mind, very young. Running back, I think Crease is a junior, correct?
Yeah, he'll be back next year.
He'll be back next year. They got a couple other dynamic weapons they'll use. Wyatt Crow was one that came to mind. He's a defensive end / tight end, and I think he was second team all conference. So there's different guys on that team that can make an impact that are young, and they're going to come back next year hungry. I feel like, Brian Calatrulio has done a great job over there since he's kind of reassumed his position in reestablishing the culture and reestablishing the expectation of what they expect to do every year.
Yeah, they're, it's minimum 8, 9, 10 wins a year, compete for league titles, just like we said. So
hold on a second here. I have I got a call coming in here. Let me see if I can field this call here in just a minute. Actually, yeah. We'll see if we can take this call here in just a minute because we got Mike Lento, Lakota Raiders head coach, trying to call in. He wants to talk about some football. I'm sure he's got some opinions.
Mike Lento, an opinion about something?
Oh, no, never. Never.
If you're connected whenever you want to go, Nate, I can
all right, let me see here. Let me give him a text here. Try again, coach. So once again, we talked about that Hopewell Loudon team. Young team. Yeah. A lot of talent coming back.
Yeah, league champions in the SBC River.
And, they beat a team in Gibsonburg that's still alive right now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them next. If we can get connected here with Coach Lento. There we go. Hey, Coach. Hey, how we doing, Coach?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad.
All right, once again, we have Lakota Raiders head football coach Mike Lento on the line with us here. Joining us in studio, we have Josh Morgret in studio with us, Coach. So how's things going over there? How's things going over there in Kansas?
I'll tell you what, Kansas is doing great. We wish we were playing football right now, but that's not the case. But our kids are. I'll tell you what, there's more excitement, I think, now in our starting the off season than any other season that we've had. Guys are in the weight room right away, on their own will, ready to rock and roll. But I'm trying to get them focused on their winter sports, basketball, wrestling, and get them rock and rolling there too.
Now, what do you usually encourage your guys, just to do what they want to do? You encourage them to go either way? Like, I always tried to encourage our kids to go into wrestling because I felt like wrestling creates better tackling in football. But, when you got athletes, you just encourage them like, hey, go be happy, play the sport that you want to play, right?
Go compete.
That's right.
At the end of the day, I know a lot of people say that I look like a wrestler, but I was a basketball guy. I was a basketball guy. I love basketball. I don't know if I was the greatest at it, but I was a pretty good defensive player. Was the old MAL back in the day. I was Defensive Player of the Year 3 years running in the old MAL, Midland Athletic League. But
Going way back there.
Way back when, But no,
back in the neck roll days. Did you ever wear a cowboy collar?
Listen, in 7th grade, I tried to wear a cowboy collar until I figured out they did not look that cool.
He said, "No, thank you."
Nope.
Josh Morgret there, man. Hey, Josh, you're looking good, man. Keep it up, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, I was going to say something when I was lining up the cameras this morning. I'm like, man, Josh, I need to do something here. You're making me look bad over here.
Hey, Mike, I could have used you last night in Glenville for a little security, bro.
Woo.
Really? How was that?
A little scary. So I get to the game, and Nate Artino is the Bellevue principal, and I texted him, and I said the same thing. I said, I could use some security. He said, it's probably not the same as walking like you do out in Kansas. I said, nope. I said, just a smidge different than the walk that I do every day at my house.
Yeah. Awesome. There was some good football last night, guys.
Yes, there really was, Coach. We talked a little bit already. We talked about the game Josh was at. The Bellevue and Cleveland Glenville game, and then we're talking a little bit about that Hopewell Loud and Columbia Station game. What's your opinion here on these Chieftains? They got a young team coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. We were talking about it at league votes, with our coaches, and Kaj's got it. I don't want to say they I think they surprised. Coach Kodge a little bit. They came in. They were going to be a little bit young. They had some senior leadership in some places, but definitely was very excited. He talked about how excited he was, how they played out throughout the year, and then like I said, when you start playing in the playoffs, talking to our kids, it just gives you an extra week, an extra 2 weeks, extra 2 weeks of practice with even your younger guys, right? And so now those guys got more experience. Those juniors are coming up. Coach Kodge is there, and he's just, that's their program. That's what the Hopewell does, and that's what we want to get to. But definitely young. Going to be exciting next year. Kelver's going to be excited next year with what they've got coming back, and Klaus, all those guys. And then I think the Raiders are going to be a little bit exciting too. Don't let our record shock us. Those guys got game time experience. And I think what makes a team dangerous, and I ask my guys, because I'm not forcing them to be in the weight room right now. I walk in, I'm like, whoa, wait, what's going on? There's more guys in the weight room now than we've ever had, as far as in an off season right after the final pack up day. I said, what's going on, guys? They go, Coach, we don't want to go 2-8 again.
That's the culture that you've created.
And so when you get a team that's sick of losing, that's when they really start winning. It has nothing. I mean, I can say it has everything to do with the coaches, but when a team gets sick of losing themselves, that's when they start winning.
Yeah, that's a great point. They take it upon themselves, and that's where true championship teams are formed. Is when the leadership doesn't have to come from the coaches; it comes from within. It comes, the drive from to want to be great. Doesn't come from just your coaching. It comes from the kids. Those kids have to push each other. They have to push themselves, and they have to want to push each other to be great. So let's talk some more football. We had a couple other games in action last night. We can talk about either one of the games that we were at, but let's talk about that Gibsonburg game, as they were the only team in this area to pick up a win and move on. Now, they beat an undefeated Waynesfield Goshen team last night. Now, I was telling people yesterday going into this game, I'm like, this Gibsonburg team might surprise some people. Connor Smith is a dog, and they've got some dogs on that line, and they get after it. And they a lot of times the physicality of that team surprises people because they have smaller guys, and they're a smaller team. Their roster size isn't that great, but man, they just go at it with teams, and they can get after it in the trenches.
Yeah, they're physical.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we played them, but they have size in the right places. And I said this, when the division came out, because I knew we were going to drop to D6. That's where we belong. we could actually drop to D7 here in the next another couple of years, depending on, what our numbers are. But, but when I saw Gibsonburg go to D7, knowing that Connor Smith and those guys are coming back, I kind of told Joe Wyatt earlier in the season, I'm like, you have a chance, man. Like, you have a chance to make it to the regional finals. He's like, and then the draw that they got, now I know Waynesville Goshen was undefeated and stuff, but I knew that I thought that they were going to be 2 touchdowns better than Waynesville Goshen. Just with their physicality and what they've got going on. And where they got lined up in the region, they've got a great draw, and we could see Gibsonburg. And listen, those kids have worked hard. Joe Wyatt's done a great job. We could see Gibsonburg in the regional finals, in my opinion.
Yeah. I actually was telling the guys today, because we, had some conversations last night about, all right, was that the last game we're going to cover? Were those the last games we're going to be covering for football? And, I made the comment last night, that could be it for us. But, as we're watching and as we're, kind of going over the schedules here, I'm looking at this Antwerp team that they're scheduled to play, and I'm not taking anything away from the Archers. That's a quality program over there, but I'll just say this: when they play a team with a winning record, a lot of these games are close. So
right.
I'm not gonna take anything away from Antwerp, but this game should be a good game, and maybe we do need to think about covering this. Maybe, chime in the comments. If you want to see us cover this Gibsonburg-Antwerp game, let us know. We might post a poll on our Facebook page to see what our fans think, see if we can maybe get some coverage over there for that one. But, Coach, Connor Smith is just an absolute monster. What are your impressions of this young man? I mean, I know.
Well,
go ahead.
I talked to him when we played him, because, I know some, a lot of, families, a lot of coaches in that Gibsonburg community. I tell you what, like I said, the River Division is what the coaches, as far as the I would say that the old regime of the brotherhood goes, of like coaches being able to talk to each other and have that mutual respect for each other is great. And talking to Joe Wyatt, man, and even Liz guy over at Gibsonburg, like Connor Smith, guys, I told him, I go, continue to be humble, but make sure you accept all the awards that you get this year. Make sure you accept all the recognition you get this year, because he's like literally deserved it and he's earned it. I wish we could put his work ethic in all the kids, and I wish kids could see what he does. He gets up in the morning. He lifts before lifting. He goes in at 5 o'clock in the morning. He does 2-a-days all year long. They said that he gets done with practice and he goes and works on footwork after practice.
Wow, that's just remarkable. Josh,
he deserves it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a wrecking ball, and he's guess what? He's probably going to give a good run at the state wrestling championship again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's reaping the benefits of all that hard work.
Oh, for sure. So, Josh, you got anything here about this Gibsonburg team? I mean, what's your thoughts here?
It's week 1, and maybe Coach Linto can chime in. The loss to Ottawa Hills, when I saw that, I'm like, that's kind of weird. But, I mean, just the one loss since to Hopewell. They've been on a tear, and obviously when you run the ball, that was really my fear going into the playoffs, is the team would force them to pass the ball, and nobody's been able to do it yet. It's just impressive that they can continue to go to him. It's going to him 9 out of 10 times, and he still can't stop it.
Yeah. It's going to be...
And I don't think, because he hasn't played, but the Owens kid is back.
Yeah.
That's a weapon and a half. He's the one that hit the field goal against Margaretta to win that game. And then now, as he starts getting games under his belt, as he starts getting practices under his belt, remember, guys, he hasn't played. He got hurt, in 2-a-days. And so now that he's back, we're forgetting to talk about the Owens kid.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, it's going to be an interesting matchup. We'll put out a poll, I think, on our Facebook page, probably on our Twitter as well, to see what fans think. Should we go cover that game? Chime in the comments. Let us know. What do you think? Should we be done with football, or should we keep covering some football and follow this Gibsonburg Golden Bears team? Because it looks like they might have caught lightning in a bottle here. We'll see.
Like Coach Linto said, that's a nice draw to be on the opposite side of the bracket from Macomb to possibly get to the regional final and face them.
I was talking to Algie last night.
You talk to everybody.
I do. I was helping them with some film and stuff throughout the week for Pandora. So
Yeah.
So another game. Let's move on. Let's talk about this Cary and Colonel Crawford game. We had a crew over there covering the game. Dominic Helmstetter, Zach Dillon were over there. Connor Roush over there as well. This one, honestly, was probably the game of the week in this area as far as coverage. When we tried to get access to this game, we were told, all right, there's no space in the press box. There's no space along the top row.
Mm-hmm.
There was 29 media passes distributed for this event. 29
That
media
does not
passes.
shock me.
That's insane. This was the ticket. This was the one everybody wanted to be at because it's the rematch. You know, the first game of the year. Cary comes away with the upset or with a win. It wasn't an upset. 7-3 win in a matchup of undefeated teams at the time. Now, in basketball, in volleyball, and a lot of sports, when they play each other twice in the regular season and they have to come around and play each other again in the playoffs, I always say, well, third time's really hard to beat a team 3 times in the same season. And I think it's the same can be said for this game here. It's really hard in football to beat the same team twice in the same season.
Yeah.
You know, they see your tendencies. They see what you're trying to do against their looks. So they try to counter that. They try to come up with different looks to, you know, deceive you, to make you think that they're doing one thing and they trick you into doing another. Last night was a pretty good example of that where, you know, Colonel Crawford came with a game plan and they executed it to perfection. I mean, they only had a couple mistakes and they capitalized on the few mistakes that Cary made. So this is a team with Colonel Crawford. You know, Coach, we were talking, you made the comment to me in our group, in our message exchange before we went on the air. You think this Colonel Crawford team might be one that could make a deep run here?
yeah, actually, I said that before the season. We played them week 2. Unfortunately, we lost a quarterback there against them week 2. But if they can click on all cylinders, I mean, their quarterback is darn good, guys. I mean, you know, he puts the ball on the dime, puts the ball on the spot, makes some great reads. What they do running wise opens up the passing game. So when they can click on all cylinders, you know, and they're physical. They've done a great job. I think in the last decade, Colonel Crawford has really risen to the top as far as where they're at, you know, in Crawford County down there and what they do. But I said early on that Colonel Crawford could win the region, and you know, when everybody's like, "Oh, Cary beat them," you know, 7-3 or what, you know, what that score was. And like, "Are you sure?" And I go, "Well, Cary's still good. When you win a state championship, I mean, they've got kids coming out of the ears wanting to play football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they do basketball, wrestling. Kids are going to come out, and so they're reaping the benefits of all their success. And Coach Birchman and those guys over there, and Coach Dyer is doing a great job. But I felt early on, because Coach Dyer was, you know, he messaged me. He's like, "Are you sure Colonel Crawford's, you know, that good?" And I said, "Coach Dyer," I'm like, "I think, no offense to you guys, I think they're probably one of the better teams in the region. So you'll have a rematch with them, right?" And so the rematch happened, and Colonel Crawford won. I still think Colonel Crawford's one of the better teams, if not the best team, in Region 22.
Yeah, and they showed it last night. I mean, they came to play. They came with a game plan. They put up 21 points on a Cary defense that really hasn't surrendered very many points all year. They gave up 21 to Galleon in week 2, but they scored 41 in that one. Other than that, they hadn't given up very many points at all.
Yeah, that was tied for the most they've given up all season.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when it's only 21.
Yeah. Especially
when the defense is that good.
Yeah. In the day and age that we live in now, where offensive explosions happen in every game, you know, it's crazy to see a game like the first game they played 7-3, but then to get the quality in the rematch that we did last night, you know, we were lucky to be there. There's nothing else to say about it. It was a great game, and it came down to a 4th and 9 play at the end of the game, and I think Greggy's still working on our
crazy.
cuts.
Almost 30 media passes?
Yeah.
That's like a state championship game.
29 media passes were issued, according to Connor Roush. He went over there the day before, scouted it out, seeing where we were going to set up, talked with the athletic director. we established kind of a good relationship with them. That way, we want to come back and do another game. But it's something where that was the game that everybody had circled on their calendar as soon as they saw that it might happen at the beginning of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Oh, this could potentially happen. You see that bracket and how it could play out, and I think everybody was looking forward to it. We got the matchup we wanted, and it did not disappoint. Maybe it disappointed some Cary fans, but it's somebody had to lose that game. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
The crazy thing is Crawford, the week after they lost to Cary, lost that heartbreaker at home in overtime to Upper.
Yeah.
If they win that, those two teams aren't playing last night. That's, like Coach Lento said, that's probably a regional final kind of matchup. But Crawford, by losing that game to Upper, slipped a little bit down in the standings.
True.
And finished 8th. And how crazy would that have been if we were 8 teams per region? That would have been a first-round matchup a couple years ago, 1 versus 8.
Yep.
But with them taking 16 now, it ended up being a second round, and just Crawford would have been a little bit higher in the standings had they beat Upper.
So Cary takes its first loss in 27 games. Yeah. First loss since last year in week 1 against Hopewell Loudon. That's probably one of the most impressive winning streaks I've seen in my coverage time.
It's got to be. I would assume it's probably the longest winning streak in our coverage area for a school like that to win 26 games in a row. It's got to be. It's nothing that's actually ever crossed my mind until you said that. That's got to be a record for the Advertiser Tribune coverage area.
It was a fun ride, and all good things must come to an end. I think a lot of people thought maybe they had it in them for another run. Me being one of them, I thought this was a team that if they could get past this Colonel Crawford team, it set up pretty well for them to make a run back to at least the semifinals.
Yeah.
But now Colonel Crawford has that path in front of them, and we'll see how the Eagles play this one out. I mean, they could be one of those teams of destiny, like a Hopewell Loudon from last year or a Seneca East from a few years back.
Yeah.
We've seen this where teams catch that lightning in a bottle and they just kind of run with the momentum. So we'll see how this turns out. Now, we were at a game last night, Tommy and I, and my son Bailey was running camera. My wife Chelsea was running sideline camera. We had Dan Hartzell down on the sideline.
Dan the
doing
man.
Some sideline duty for us last night. But full crew, full house, and the Padua Franciscan Bruins. I think a lot of people, when they saw the name, they're like, who's this? And then they see the record, and they're like, 5-5 on the regular season. We'll be all right. We'll mop the floor with these guys. The 10 seed, it's fine. We got this. I saw this team, and I said, man, this is a tough team, and they've played a lot of tough teams. Like, you look at their schedule, they started out, I think, 1-4. Yeah. They started out 0-3, lost their first 3, lost 4 out of their first 5 games, but then now down the stretch have won 6 out of their last 7 games. So you have this, this Bruins team coming into Frost Calloway Stadium, the 10 seed. I think a lot of people might have underestimated them. I don't think the Tornadoes underestimated them. I think they knew exactly what they were up against. This is a team that they're deep. I'm pretty sure they pretty much platooned outside of about 2 guys. I think there was 2 guys that played both ways. Other than that, they had a platoon on both sides of the ball. It's crazy how deep they were. And I'm pretty sure one of their defensive linemen is going to be playing at noon for Ohio State today because, good Lord. Did you watch that game last night, Coach?
I did, man.
That Jesse Hayes kid was 6'7", 245 pounds.
Jesus.
Actually, we were watching it, and my boys go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, look how big that guy is." I go, when you have a kid that big, I think Tippin might be in a little bit of a struggle tonight. I mean, even like actually, not going to go back, but when you look at Waynesville Goshen, I think Waynesville Goshen had a guard that was like 6'6", 385 against Gibson. But no, you're right. I mean, when you look at Padua, when they come in, and that's the fun part about playoffs is we start kind of getting deeper. Teams and areas are starting to match with teams that really don't know That's for me as a fan of football, right, and a coach of football. They gets excited. I'm excited about next week because now we got Friday, Saturday games. This
That's
whole
right.
Friday game stuff is just it's hard for coaches that aren't in the playoffs or fans that just want to go watch multiple games. And today's a great game. Actually, I'm taking the boys down to Heidelberg today to watch their game. But but Padmont, listen, you're right. They were deep. I was impressed with how deep they were. I was impressed with their athletics. I don't think everybody can get frustrated on what Tip and Clitta should have would have done. I think it was a great game plan. I think you saw two teams going at it, and it come down to just was the right scheme, was the right play, how to line up, and it's tough, especially when you have a game that's close and that high scoring. I think it was 32-28. There's not a lot of mistakes that were made. It was just what team was going to have the ball last and to have a successful drive.
Yeah. And that's really what it came down to, that last drive. Tiff and Columbian drove down the field, had a chance. They were first and goal at the 6-yard line and just were not able to come up with the game-winning play. Unfortunately, the game-ending interception happened at the 5-yard line, and then the Bruins kneeled it out for the rest of the game. Took home the win, and they move on. They'll now play Norton, the Norton Panthers, as they upended Clyde.
I was going to say, that's the matchup we all had, right?
Yeah.
No.
I think everybody predicted that one.
I was trying to figure out where Clyde and Columbian would have played.
Fremont. It would have been Fremont.
It would have been, but I've heard Ross is not huge on hosting games anymore.
Really?
Yeah, the states really messed that up, guys. Even even hosting home games, back in the day, and I can talk about this because I was talking to Nate Mullins about just I want to ruffle some feathers at the state because even like coaches that want to volunteer coach, they're paying $286. To volunteer coach is just redonkulous in my mind.
Yeah.
Obviously, do the BCI, FBI background check. But listen, when after the COVID year, the state came in and was like, well, we need to recoup our losses. And so that's when they went to, basically when I can remember when teams used to host or the first couple rounds, right? And I might have been all the way up until the state championship game. I could be wrong on this one, but teams that sold their tickets got to keep 20% of the profits.
Yeah.
They got to keep 20% of their profits. And now the state keeps everything. So everybody wants to know why is it so hard for teams to host? Well, there's nothing in it for teams that host.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, especially all the ticket sales are done online now.
Right.
So, and there's nothing done at the gate. That the schools are frustrated with it as well. They don't understand how they are benefiting from this relationship. So it's very frustrating. And yeah, you're right, Coach. It's one of those things where I can feel for them if they don't want to host and they're not seeing the benefits of it. Why would you?
I think a lot of schools have went to pay for parking too. I've seen that a lot. Not only for that, but for like volleyball and soccer too. I don't know how many I've seen just this year paid to park, which obviously I didn't get free passes media, but I think that's where they make a lot of their money is parking. I see like Sandusky today. Sandusky's hosting 2 regional soccer finals, both of them $5 to park.
Wow.
So they're going to make.
That's your losses
that's
somehow.
Probably $1,000 for each game right there. They're going to make on park. It's smart. I mean, it sucks for people that have to pay and go, parents and stuff, but unfortunately, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you hit that on the head too, Josh. Is like your parents can get upset, but also at the same time, parents got to understand like as a school that's hosting, they gotta make money somewhere, and parking's where it is right now.
Yeah, parking. Like I said, that's the first one I've seen $5. I've seen I think Willard maybe might have been like $3 to park. I've seen a couple like $2 to park, but like I said, if you charge $5 to park, you get 200 cars, which I think that's pretty reasonable for a soccer regional final. That's $1,000 for each game. That's $2,000 they're going to make just for parking. I mean, that's smart. Shout out to Sandusky. That's smart to do it, but unfortunately, that's what they have to do right now.
Yeah, and that's the obstacle that a lot of schools are facing right now. They have to figure out some way to recoup their losses because, this is kind of the problem that we're facing as a society because, everybody wanted to make more money. And then as soon as you start making more money, now the company is like, well, we got to recoup those losses. We're not just going to take that hit. So now we're raising prices, and it's just,
it's a trickle down effect.
It's a trickle down.
Yep.
Yeah. And
one leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other.
And it's just frustrating because, the schools are in a position where, well, they're not going to host these games if they don't see the benefit in it. So, yeah.
It's not just football. It's every sport. It's volleyball and soccer and even like cross country where it's at now.
Yeah. So you have, this Norton versus Padua Franciscan game. I have no idea where that would even take place.
Somewhere over there.
I think.
Where's Norton at? I don't know where Norton's at.
Norton is, I want to say like Canton. I feel like if I went to Canton for like basketball regionals, I've seen signs for Norton. That's my guess, but.
They are in Summit County.
That doesn't help.
Doesn't help at all.
No, it'll be played over there, I'm sure, by Cleveland
I bet it's
or
down
Akron
in Holler.
Yeah, somewhere over there. That won't be anywhere around here.
Might be like an Elida type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they play teams like Springfield, Cloverleaf, Coventry, Woodridge. Those are looks like their conference.
Yeah, that's all over by Akron, I think.
Yep, they're right outside of Akron.
Right outside of Akron. All right. So Columbian season comes to an end. We shouted out the seniors last night. We gave them all the MST Sauce Company Player of the Game award. They had a smaller senior class this year. This is a senior class that has a lot of success. I think their entire 4-year career at Tiffin Columbian, they made the playoffs, this senior class. But only 9 kids in that class. They've got a young team coming back. They've got a really strong junior class that's kind of carried this momentum since their freshman year. And then they have a strong 8th grade class coming in as well. So this is a team that, that they're young this year, and they made, I think, a lot of people thought they probably were going to go farther, but I think they lived up to their own standards, their expectations as far as, the winning season, the standard of excellence that they've established there. So going forward, this is a team that, you've got the Rogo brothers going into their senior year, Damian Brockington entering his senior year. You've got a lot of these kids in this junior class, Jack Corper, Brady Gooding. There's a lot of kids. I could just keep naming names of all these kids that are going to be coming up into their senior campaign. And there's some kids that they're probably going to have a sour taste in their mouth after this one. So, Coach, I got to get your thoughts on this, and I'll ask Josh as well. What are your thoughts on the Tornadoes for going into next season?
You hit it on the head. You start, and I kind of mentioned that even with Kerry. You start in Colonel Crawford. You start making playoff runs, and you start winning 1-2 playoff games, and you start getting that tradition. You start getting that, it becomes an expectation, right? And it becomes, this is what we do. And so then now in the off season, you get to train a little bit differently, knowing, we don't need to get somewhere. We're already there. It's now how do we capitalize off that? So you're seeing that, and Coach Lutz has done a good job over there. I know Coach Otney, those guys have done a good job, kind of getting that system and that thing rolling, and they got a good staff over there. So, I would say this, and if I could give any advice to any young guys or just teams out there, is enjoy the process, right? And don't put expectations on yourself. I think that sometimes is it's self-inflicted pressure, right? Is just get excited and go play ball. Go do what it is and go shock the area. Right? Don't obviously we all know in the back of our heads we want to go win the regionals. We want to go win the state championship. But just go do it, and I think you're going to see a mix of kids of when they go do it next year, they're going to have fun doing it and get things rolling. And like I said, I think across the board, the SBC Lake, the SBC River, SBC Bay, we prepare ourselves for the playoffs. It's a tough league throughout.
Yeah, and this is a league that has a lot of expectations. There's a lot of, every year there's multiple teams from that conference, most of the time at each level of the conference that make the playoffs. So there is a level of expectation for a lot of these schools. But you're right, Coach. There's something to be said for just going out there and having fun. Just leave the expectations on the sidelines. When you're between those lines, just ball out. Have fun. Don't forget that it's just a game and you're there with your brothers, and just lift each other up, build each other up, and go out there and ball out. It's exactly.
Now, let it be known that winning is more fun than fun is fun, though.
Well,
Yeah.
we know this. But usually, winning takes care of itself when you take care of the small things. You take care of the details, and you keep things in perspective. I think hard work, determination, effort, attitude, those are the things that you can control. Outside of that, it's a game. I mean, crazy things happen, I'm sure you've seen plenty of them, Coach.
Oh, man. Been on both sides of them. And have lived life outside the game to keep them in. But thankful that the game was there to keep us on the right path.
So, Josh, question about this Tornadoes team as we approach the offseason for football. A lot of these kids, they're going to turn their focus to basketball, wrestling, baseball. This team has a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this core group, and as they approach these different seasons, how they prepare for next season, and what's your thoughts on this group going into next year?
I think I'm curious to see how. Obviously they'll be motivated next year, but to get to the state semifinals 2 years ago, and then I don't know if they met expectations this year and last year. I think last year they were in a good groove until the egging incident and suspensions. And then this year, a couple weeks ago, they were playing for the league title. They were 7-1 going to Perkins, play for a league title, and all of a sudden the season's over on your home field too. Last year going to West Holmes without a bunch of players was, a different story. So, like you said, it'll be basketball season on Monday for a lot of these guys. Should be a really good season for them, and the baseball team did really well last year. So, curious to see how motivated they are. A lot of seniors next year. To only have 9 this year, that's not a lot, especially for a school like Columbian size. You're usually expecting like 15 to 20 per year. So, a lot of them will be back with, they'll definitely want to get back to that state semifinal level like they did 2 years ago for their senior year next year. So, curious to see what happens.
Well, if you thought expectations were high this year, wait till next year.
Oh, yeah.
This is a team that's going to have a lot of expectations. They're going to have a target. They're going to have a bullseye on their chest, and a lot of teams are going to bring their A game when they come to play the Tornadoes. So next year, I've got no doubts that Judd Lutz and his staff will have these guys prepared, but they're going to have to be ready, because there's going to be a lot of teams coming for them next year, because they're the top dog. They're the bar.
They should go into the season as a favorite to win the Lake. Perkins will have a nice team. Clyde will have a lot back. Clyde's a really young team this year too. And then, like we talked, Bellevue goes to the Bay, so they won't be. They still play in the regular season, but it won't be a league game. So
now, is anyone joining the Lake then, or is it just them leaving?
No, I think it's like 5 teams in the Lake next year, which was ridiculous that it was only 6. I think next year it's only 5. But Bellevue, I don't know Columbian schedule off the top of my head, but I think Bellevue plays just about all of the Lake teams in non-league play next year. So they play 8 teams that were in the SBC this year, but only whatever's in the Bay next year. So it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And it'll change. Coach Lento knows that.
That'll change. I try. It's kind of crazy. I feel like the river is kind of like we're down by ourselves, and we're good to go. It's just funny. It's interesting to watch how that all plays out. And I don't know much of anything. I don't talk to our AD about it, but it's crazy. Hey, where's Liberty Benton gonna land?
Yeah,
they're looking for a place. Is that where do they go to the Lake, or do they go to the Bay? And I start talking about numbers. Now let's say talking about league. I was bringing this up is Willard's coming down to the river for football, but they're one of the largest schools in the Bay when it comes to numbers.
True.
Yep.
Just when you look at pure numbers, so it's interesting. I'm thankful that Woodmore's coming in, and but like I said, I think the river, we're just kind of down by ourselves and doing our own thing.
Yeah,
the river's probably the most stable of the 3 next year too.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And consistently competitive, man.
It's nice when we happen to schedule 3 non-league games. Yeah. That's for sure.
See, when I grew up at Fostoria, like this whole four non-league or five non-league was never heard of. Fostoria played 3 non-league games, and then you played your 7 league games. Like every league in the area was 8 teams, and then all of a sudden, whatever it was 10 or 15 years ago, and everything is just a mess since then. Teams leaving, realignment. We're not happy here. We're not happy with how big the schools are in our division, and it's just a mess, and it'll probably never end. Yeah. No, but you're never going to make everybody happy in one league. Like there's always going to be, oh, that team's really good in football, or that team, in the river don't have football teams, and just a mess, and it never stops.
Yeah, there's teams in the river that don't play football.
Yeah,
well, and then you go down to Mac country, right? With Coldwater and all those guys, they play 2 non-league games, but they play 9 league games. So here's what they do: is the first game I believe is a non-league matchup. Their second game, although they're playing a team in the league, it counts as a non-league matchup, and then they rotate, their schedules. Basically, 10 goes to 1, and therefore they've got it figured out to have multiple teams in their league, and I don't think they have any scheduling problems.
Wow, that's actually pretty interesting.
Well, that's like the Firelands Conference. I don't think they've changed members in like 40 years. St. Paul, South Central, Western, and there's no bickering about it. Like they're having problems with New London in football where it kind of messes up the football schedule, but it's like, man, just get in a league and be happy and make your rivalries. Like,
I think a lot of it comes down to, well, some of it, I wouldn't say a lot. Some of it comes down to some of these smaller schools that have kind of dropped off of football schedule. You got, St. Mary's and, St. Wendland have kind of, obviously St. Wendland's no longer here, but St. Mary's down to 8-man football. You've got Danbury down to 8-man. There's just.
That's where it messes up the scheduling a little bit, and you try to find a solution for that. And
hey, Rally Possum.
That dude is way more manly than me. I would have not even came close to that possum. But he had one job and he executed.
He did it well, yes.
But anyways, it's always changing.
Watching some College Game Day here.
I love it.
But anyways, Coach, any final thoughts here before we let you go? We got to get ready for this Heidelberg game. We got a call here in a few hours. So
same. I'm making some breakfast, getting ready to make a brunch here. But it's always fun to get on here and talk with you guys. You guys are great. And I told my wife, I go, hey, he just asked me if I want to get on the show. I'm like, you gonna do it? I'm like, yeah, why not? Talk a little bit of Lakota football, talk with these guys, talk football. I'm a fan now, I'm excited that we're going to Friday, Saturday night games next week because I can get to multiple games. My kids are growing up, so they're loving playoff football, and so we're traveling around, and we're going to take the boys to the Heidelberg B-Dub game today. So I got Logan Streaker who's on the Heidelberg team, and Cooper Stein who's on B-Dub. So I get to see 2 former players of mine match up and be on the sideline today.
That's really awesome. It's got to be a special feeling, Coach, as a coach, seeing your guys move on to play at a higher level. I coached youth football, so it's a different experience for me watching those kids grow up and then playing in high school. It's like calling their name on Friday nights. It's like, wow, it's kind of surreal. I coached that kid. He was a 6th grader when he played for me, Now you got these kids all the way through high school, and then you get to watch them go on to be young men as, collegiate athletes. What kind of a feeling is that? Talk about that just for a second.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, especially, coming from the level of football that I coach at, right, and that I came from. When you go to that, when you're playing college football, especially at the D3, and listen, Coach Donaldson, those guys do a fantastic job at Heidelberg. He's the one who hooked me up at the thickest state, but it's a job when you play college ball. I mean, you got to love it. You got to be dedicated to it. The game's got to mean something special to you. And to see these guys continue to work through it and continue to persevere, go from being the top dogs, that's how totem pole, to now I've got to work my way back up, and hopefully, some coaching, was instilled in that of learning how to just kind of climb the ranks again and have that passion. But that's really special when you see it at the college level, no matter if it's D3, D2, junior college, or D1, to see you guys, to move on at that level is fantastic, and to be able to be a part of the program and have college coaches call you and talk to you about how great the kid is, and just it's those things that, maybe I still got some coaching left in me. I have a lot of coaching left in me, but when you start doubting and you have tough days, when you don't have good seasons, when you have rough games. It's those stories, also the stories of guys. I got a kid that got married last night.
Wow.
It's crazy. Levi, he's married and doing successful. Josh knows that, and so it's those things that just having to be able to touch those guys' lives. It's really surreal, and it makes it special for coaches.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that perspective, Coach. And I, once again, appreciate your time. Josh, any final comments for Coach here?
No, always appreciate the help and love you like a brother and appreciate you everything you do for me.
Once again, Lakota Raiders head football coach Mike Lento joining us this morning on the program. Thanks again for your time, Coach. Always appreciate you coming on with us.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Maybe I'll see you guys here a little bit later.
Yeah, probably will. Here in a few hours.
Yep.
Later, buddy.
Yeah.
Once again, Mike Lento joining us on the program. Thanks to Greg Kinn for queuing that up, getting that ready for us. We do have something else queued up, I think. Are we about ready here for the Champs Cut of the Week, Greggy?
Yes, we are.
All right, nice. So let's go ahead and fire up the Cut of the Week from the Cary game.
Look at Cary's first.
Yeah, let's do the Cary-Colonel Crawford game.
All right.
So here we are, the Champs.
Go Rickle looking to pass the ball, going deep. Watch the top here. Got a man open. Intercepted. It is intercepted. Pick it up, and they're running. Kennerly, he's got space. 40, 30, nobody near him. 20, 10. Here it is, Lorgan. He's got space. He's gone. It is number 12, Cameron Lore.
So there you have it, the Champs Cut of the Week from Cary and Colonel Crawford. And now we'll take a look at the Tiffin Columbian Cut of the Week, courtesy of, once again, Champs Barbershop.
Rogo's going to air it out here along to start, and it's caught! It's caught!
6-yard line. Rogo. Handoff. Brockington. Little double reverse. And this is a flea flicker. Rogo slings it down the field. And comes up with the catch at the 10-yard line. Rogo back to pass. Looking down the middle of the field. He's got a man deep. And Gooding comes down with the catch. Brady Gooding, what a catch at the 3. Brady Gooding coming down with a big catch. Pump fake, slings it out left side, complete. Bryce Rogo on the reception. Beautiful catch at the 15-yard line. There you have it. There's your Champs Barbershop Cut of the Week. A lot of their touchdowns last night were just short little 1-yard plunges. We had a pretty cool shot from a sideline cam of one of our touchdowns, but it was like just a 1-yard plunge. It was barely, I think it was like a half yard out.
Heard that.
But thanks again to Greg Kinn for putting those together, our Champs Cut of the Week. I think that's pretty much going to do it for high school football. College football still on the schedule here. We've got Heidelberg one last game, as we'll bring you the Baldwin-Wallace Heidelberg game live on Heart of Ohio Sports. It's a 1:30 kickoff. Tune in right around 1 o'clock for the pregame festivities. As I understand, there's some senior day festivities that will be underway right around 1 o'clock. So tune in on Heart of Ohio Sports. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, on heartofohiosports.com, and also on the OAC network. So what's your thoughts on that one? Heidelberg, big win over Wilmington last week. Coming into this one, I think this defense, the most they've allowed all year is 28 points.
Yeah.
So this Baldwin-Wallace team is going to have their hands full on the offensive side of the ball. As far as Heidelberg offensively, though, they put up a bunch of points last week. Seems to get that offense rolling. Is that something you think is a continuing trend as they close out the season?
Yeah, with having Drew Sims and Montavious Year be back healthy
Yes.
and starting the game last week, that's a big key. I mean, 2 weeks ago they didn't start and got down 14-0, and all of a sudden they appeared. Coach Donaldson said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him you have a plan. So I don't think there was plans to play them a whole lot 2 weeks ago at home until they got down 14-0. So
yeah.
But to have them two back and healthy is crucial for the offense. Or by far the two best playmakers on the offense. So It's going to be a tough one today. Baldwin Wallace is nothing to sneeze at. They're 6-2. Their only league loss was to John Carroll, and they have Mount Union waiting next week. So kind of a big game for them. If they lose today, they're probably underdogs to Mount Union next week where they go 6-4. If they win today, maybe they give Mount Union a run and finish 8-2. So, and Heidelberg's in the same spot. They're going to be a huge favorite over Capital next week. So if you get today, you're going to probably finish 8-2. So kind of an interesting, pivotal game, I guess, for the way the last couple of weeks of the season are going to go.
Yeah, I think, both teams are kind of out of that playoff positioning. You got to pretty much got to finish 9-1 in the OAC to be in playoff consideration. Yeah. And with the 2 losses for both teams, I think that kind of puts them on the outside looking in. Looks like Heidelberg, if they win out, they could probably finish somewhere around 28, 29, somewhere around in there. Yeah. Baldwin Wallace, same if they win out. But, it's senior day. It's Veterans Appreciation Day. Come on out.
And it's gorgeous.
It is a beautiful
70 today or something.
Beautiful day for football. It's going to be a little breezy, but it's going to be gorgeous for football. And what better setting than Herneman Stadium? I'm telling you, folks, the scene, the setting at Herneman Stadium is unlike any other in college football. You really have to experience it yourself. Go experience a game. It's beautiful. There's no other excuse that you have today. Ohio State plays who at noon?
Exactly.
Northwestern.
But...
They're favored by 50. Who cares? You can keep up on the updates on your phone. Go watch Heidelberg.
Yeah. And Ohio State's got a couple games, too, to go.
And if you're not going to go to the stadium, you can tune in right here. Heart of Ohio Sports, Heidelberg football, the home of Heidelberg football home games. Tune in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and the OAC network. Once again, 1:30 kickoff, 1 o'clock for the pregame show. Any other college football games that you want to talk about? I mean, big matchup. They're at Athens today for the Georgia-Tennessee game.
Yeah, real quick, you can go back and watch Heidelberg later too, can't you? That video stays up?
Yeah. It's archived.
That's my plan. I mean, I got volleyball today, but when I get home tonight, I'm probably going to watch Heidelberg.
I like that. I like the way you think, Josh.
Yeah. Well, when you can't be in 2 places at once,
exactly.
That's the way the Lord made us. You can only take one body, one place.
That's a great way to think too, because we're kind of like your personal DVR when it comes to high school or college sporting events that we cover, because you don't have to save it on your DVR. You don't have to pre-record it or any of that. We got it. Yeah. We got you. Anytime you want to find it, just go search for it. It's there.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of the Columbian game this morning when I got up. I was too tired last night, and I watched the last drive just to see kind of how it ended, too. So that's shout out you guys. That's tremendous. Tremendous asset, If we're scouting and getting ready to cover a game next week, go back and watch last week's game.
Yeah, for sure. And, I've got a lot of compliments these last couple weeks during the playoffs. A lot of people reaching out, telling me, how appreciative they are, how much they love what we do. And I can't thank you guys enough for supporting us. You just not only with the comments and the likes and the shares and the follows and all that stuff, but just, the consistency, being there for us, telling us in person means so much. So if you see one of us in person and you're like, hey, isn't that one of them Heart of Ohio Sports guys? Just tell them. You don't know how much it means to me where somebody approaches me in public and is like, hey, I love what you guys do. Absolutely love it. Please keep doing what you're doing. It's a great thing. It's great for the community. What we're trying to do is something that I would have loved to have when I was growing up in sports. I would have absolutely loved to be a part of this. And now I get to be a part of it. But even if I wasn't, a driving force behind this, I would love this as a sports fan, as an asset. So that's what we try to create. That's really what we're trying to do, is we try to give you what we want.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Greggy?
Absolutely, man. And I love hearing feedback from people because it also lets us know that we're being seen, and that's what our goal is to be seen.
And even if you've got constructive criticism, I love that too, because it helps us.
Just give that to Nate, not me.
Yeah, don't tell Greggy though. You send that to me.
Written letter.
Send that to me. I'll figure out a way to gloss that over with Greggy. But that's pretty much it for college football. We had the Tennessee-Georgia game going on today.
Yeah, back to the question you asked me.
Don't forget tonight we got Notre Dame and Clemson. Like it's a 7:30 game, I believe.
Who you got there, Greggy? Oh, I know who you got.
I'm going Notre Dame, baby.
Notre Dame, baby.
Greggy, you know I've trashed Notre Dame a couple times this year, right?
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame gets it done at home tonight.
Oh yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
With the questions
yeah.
surrounding DJ, however you say his last name, and who he's going to start today. But man, Syracuse had Clemson last week. You know, I think Notre Dame's not the top 5 team they were in the preseason, but they were a top 5 team in the preseason.
That's a good point.
I like them to get it done.
There you go. Little confidence boost, Greggy.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And I will take I'll take Georgia here too. Like I said to you off the air, I think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah.
If Ohio State has any thoughts of winning a national championship, they're going to have to beat Georgia to do it.
I just want to see Tennessee gets knocked off this perch it's sitting on right now because I like Tennessee. I like Tennessee fans. I got nothing against Tennessee. I don't want any hate from Tennessee fans, but like there's a lot of I guess overreaction right now going on with this Tennessee team.
That's the win over Alabama that did it.
It'll do that for sure. Absolutely. But I think Alabama is in a down year this year. You're going to see that throughout the year as they play tougher opponents. So I think time will tell how good this Tennessee team really is. I think Georgia's going to take care of business today.
It's really awkward. I think this is almost a must-win for Georgia to get in the playoff.
Really?
Because if they lose, they're not going to beat any. They're not going to play Alabama in the SEC championship.
That's true.
Tennessee loses, they can
true.
at least say, "Hey, we beat Alabama already," and then Georgia and Alabama would play, and the winner that's in the playoff. And then
so
Tennessee,
if Tennessee
would have an
loses
argument.
and then they win out, Georgia
would play Alabama in the SEC
loses to Alabama. Do all 3 teams make the?
No.
Come on, Josh, play this with me. 3 out of 4 teams.
Okay, hold on.
3 out of 4 SEC teams in the college football playoffs.
It depends.
You know that's what the ESPN wants.
Well, yeah, but it depends on what everybody else does. I mean,
ESPN
if Clemson does run the table, Clemson's in. If TCU runs the table, they're in. The Ohio State Michigan winner's in. In that scenario, only one.
Do you think TCU's really going to run the table?
Do you think Clemson's going to run the table?
No, absolutely not.
Well, if it gets chaos, then you can talk multiple or even 3 SEC teams in. The SEC championship game winners, that's a guaranteed spot. The Ohio State Michigan winner, if they don't lose another game, is a guaranteed spot. And then you fight for the other 2, whether it's Tennessee or Alabama or TCU. I mean, what if USC or Oregon run the table? Finish with 1 loss, 13-1.
Yeah. You got
a lot of questions.
You got a lot of late season conference games that are like rivalry games coming up. So I think a lot of those teams that have yet to have a loss, like TCU,
they still have tough
Clemson,
ones ahead. Yeah,
they've got some tough matchups ahead. That's going to kind of settle the landscape, I think, and you'll really see the cream. The cream will rise to the top. Ooh,
He's pulling Forrest Gump over here, and you got Macho Man Randy Savage. I heard the Alabama there. I heard Forrest Gump.
Oh, man.
Alabama's got some tough ones. I mean, they got to go to Baton Rouge tonight. They got to go to Death Valley at night. And then they still have Ole Miss and then the SEC championship. So
absolutely.
They could lose one and still play in the SEC West. And, so it's November. This is what we're excited for.
That's right.
As long as Ohio State keeps winning, I'm good.
That's right. All right, well, that's pretty much going to do it for us today. We got to get packed up and ready for this Heidelberg game. So
some of us have to drive 2 hours east.
I was having so much fun, Josh, and now you got to pull that on me. Jeez, I'm sorry, man.
Well, I'm just saying, I feel left out from Horniman Stadium. Lento's talking about taking his kids, and you guys are going.
Last home game of the year, you don't even get to be there.
I'm gonna have to, first game this year. You're on the home that I've missed. Jeez, high school sports.
All right. Well, hey, I mean,
I'm going to have to watch it later, though. I'm going to have to get a text message, see how it's going or something.
Watch back. Got that resource.
Yep.
Once again, folks, thanks for watching here on Heart of Ohio Sports. This has been the Saturday Scoreboard. If you've made it this far, share the video. Like, follow, subscribe on all of our platforms, especially YouTube, please. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, what is stopping you, folks? We are so close to that 1,000 subscriber mark where we can start doing some really, really cool stuff with our YouTube channel. So once again, thanks for watching. Tune in, 1 o'clock pregame, 1:30 kickoff, Heidelberg versus Baldwin Wallace right here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Have a great day, everybody. Get outside. It's beautiful out there.